Crescenta, arms! In mournful tribute, but with everlasting appreciation for their supreme sacrifice, having given their last full measure of devotion, I invite those veterans who have served to render the hand salute with me, together, the others with your hand over your heart, as we repeat and reaffirm our pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Good morning, community, and all of our dignitaries. My name is Victoria Malone. I am a community service servant and the keeper of the Montrose Vietnam War Memorial. Today, we gather in collective, solemn respect and gratitude for those who gave their courage and their bravery so that we may have the freedoms and the rights we live with today. It is my pleasure to introduce the Montrose Shopping Park Association President, Ordubegian.
Good morning, and welcome to Montrose Memorial Day ceremony. My name is Ordubegian, President of Montrose Shopping Park Association. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for joining us here today to remember and honor our fallen heroes, the brave men and women who courageously gave their lives and made the ultimate sacrifice. Let us count our blessings and stand proud on this Memorial Day. God bless you and your families, God bless our troops, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Franko. I'm the president of the Montrose Verdugo City Chamber of Commerce. Just want to thank you all for coming here as we remember our troops that have given the greatest sacrifice of all to defend our country and our Constitution. Thank you. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. And God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you all for coming. I want to thank the organizers of this event, as well as thank members of our police department, fire department, anyone who's here to help us honor the memory of those who have fallen. There are many states that claim to have started the tradition of Memorial Day, but there seems to be little doubt that this tradition started sometime in our nation immediately after the Civil War, with a few asserting that it was President Abraham Lincoln's dedication of the cemetery at the battlefield of Gettysburg that started this somber but noble tradition of honoring our nation's fallen soldiers. Knowing this, it was hard for me to think of something more meaningful to say today than what was so eloquently and precisely spoken by President Lincoln at that dedication. One of the briefest but most poignant words ever spoken on the topic, when he observed that, in a larger sense, we cannot consecrate, we cannot dedicate, we cannot hallow this ground, The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. The sacrifice of the fallen soldier is, as noted by President Lincoln, far greater than any words we can speak, and the highest honor to the ideals and values of our nation. That we are all created equal and have God-given right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of our happiness. The Medal of Honor is our nation's highest honor for those who have served in our armed forces. During and immediately after the Civil War, during the 19th century as a whole, some 26 African Americans were awarded this honor for their valor during the Civil War, fighting for our nation and the grand army of our republic. Another 24 after, during the Indian Wars and Spanish Civil War. And then the honors stopped. None were given for African servicemen for service during World War I and World War II until 1991. Now in the 50s, 2 were honored for action during the Korean War and then in Vietnam. But for 2 of the greatest wars in which we fought, it was well documented how colored regiments served, fought, and died. No honors were bestowed upon them until 1991. A research study in the 1990s found a clear policy of discrimination in how the medal was awarded, and more importantly, not awarded. I say this not to shame us or to politicize our somber remembrance, but to remind us that we can all fall into behavior that does not honor the sacrifice of our fallen heroes. That our nation isn't perfect, but must be made perfect by our individual actions every day. Now, in the Jewish faith, I have learned that it is a sin to say a prayer and not follow it with action. For instance, if you pray over a meal and not eat that bread, it is the same as having committed a sin. Well, when we pray for the memory of our lost loved ones, our brave men and women who have fought for our freedoms and to protect our nation, and then we engage in actions that divide us and only selectively engage with our neighbors because they don't share our views or vote for the person I voted for, that is a sinful behavior. Memorial Day was born out of the sacrifice of our American soldiers who died to preserve the unity of our great nation. During the Civil War, when there were those who felt that their political beliefs justified for them to break off from this country and pursue a belief that was abhorrent, that some Americans were less than they were. The sacrifice of those fallen reminds us that we are one nation, under God, and indivisible, no matter who or what forces try to tear us apart. Memorial Day is and should be that reminder that no matter how different we think we are, the sacrifice for this nation knows no color, no religion, or creed, and we must all do our part to honor the memory of the fallen. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Good morning, veterans. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and council members, my wonderful colleagues in the legislature, Senator Portantino, Laura Friedman. It is an honor to be with you, and I want to thank the City of Glendale, Montrose Shopping Park Association, and Montrose Verdugo City Chamber of Commerce for having us here today. Every day, hundreds of thousands of brave men and women wake up and serve our nation with distinction. They risk their lives to keep us and the freedoms we hold dear safe and secure. Today, we gather as a community to express our gratitude for their service, and we pause to remember the many heroes who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, laying down their lives so that we at home may live in peace and prosperity. We can never fully repay them or their families for their selflessness. But what we can do, what we must do today and every day, is honor their memory. That means sharing their stories so future generations never forget their courage. It means showing up and caring for loved ones that they leave behind. It means supporting their brothers and sisters in arms who do return home, and helping our veterans pursue rich, full lives in their memory. Today, I'm especially thinking about the 13 U.S. service members who were killed last August in Kabul, Afghanistan. I'm thinking of their families who are marking their first Memorial Day without their beloved children, their spouses, their friends, and their family. It is a beautiful thing to have people who are not afraid to risk it all. But there's no greater tragedy than when they are lost, and often they are lost so very young. We owe them so very much. Thank you to all who are gathered here today, and to all who have served this nation in uniform. We salute you, and God bless you. And if I may, I would also like to recognize the families of those victims in Uvalde and around the country this week in a heartbreaking tragedy which I think tears at the fabric of our country. We think of those parents, and we think of those families and those teachers, and our hearts break with them. Thank you.
Good morning. Would like to thank the Montrose Chamber, the shopping park, everyone who brought us here together to this morning. In particular, I'd like to say thank you to all the veterans out there. If you're a veteran, could you raise your hand? So let's please say thank you to the veterans. And our first responders, firefighters, police officers, highway patrol. Please, let's give them a round of applause as well. You know, we all have the benefit of enjoying freedom, our quality of life. And to me, one of the most poignant parts of this morning ceremony in Montrose is looking at the names of the soldiers who didn't come back during the Vietnam War. I don't think anything brings home the point as, you know, I stare out and I read the names. There's somebody's son, brother, uncle. Some of them could have been somebody's dad, somebody's grandparent. But for the fact that they went off to war so we could be here today, and they didn't come home. I think it was President Obama who said, we owe a debt of appreciation to the fallen, and it's a debt that we can never fully repay. Let me say that again. We owe a debt to the fallen, and we can never fully repay that debt. I think that says it all. Obviously, we have a country in the midst of significant issues of the day. And I think one way we can try to repay the debt to those men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice is to be better people. And so if you could all indulge me this morning and just turn to the person next to you, introduce yourself, share the moment, please. Say good morning. Say good morning. If it's a firefighter or a police officer or a veteran, say thank you. Let me say that again. If it's a firefighter, a police officer, or a veteran, say thank you. Appreciate the moment. Appreciate the freedoms, the love that we get to share with our families that these men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifices don't get to pay. And so for me, if you would just join me today, make a pledge inside that we're going to honor those men and women who didn't come back by being better Americans, by being better people, and by appreciating all of the freedoms that they died for. So thank you very much, and thank you for letting me be part of this morning.
Good morning. It's an honor to be with you here once again, and I always enjoy coming and seeing how many people do come out at 7 a.m. on Memorial Day for acknowledging this day for the solemnness that it actually has. You know, it took me a little while to realize that not every area recognizes Memorial Day in the same way. I was speaking to some of my colleagues in the state legislature this week, and I asked them what they were doing on Memorial Day, because many of us who were elected go from this event to downtown Glendale, to La Cañada's event, to La Crescenta's event, to Burbank's event, and to many of the Memorial Day ceremonies that are happening around this region. And I was surprised that I have colleagues who don't go to one Memorial Day event because in some areas they've kind of forgotten or they're small. And I think that we should take pride in the fact that this community recognizes Memorial Day, recognizes its heroes and its veterans, and will continue to do that, I think, for the rest of time. And this particular memorial being right in the middle of Montrose is that living reminder to so many people of the sacrifices that our own have made. You know, this day means a lot to a lot of people, and I want to particularly acknowledge the veterans and the families of those who have lost loved ones fighting for our freedoms. In my own family, my uncle is a Vietnam combat veteran. My great uncle, who lives with my mother, who's 97, is a World War I veteran, and still sharp as a tack, I might say. My father's a veteran. And every year, both on Veterans Day and Memorial Day, I make it a point to reach out to them, because for many people, they are still hurting from what they have seen and experienced, and for those that they have lost. So I think on this day, it's very important that we do acknowledge the people who are around us who still feel those wounds fresh in their bodies, in their souls, in their households, and make sure that we do focus on supporting them. And at a time, as my colleagues have said, when there are wars raging around the world, and sometimes it seems to us almost inconceivable that in the modern era we can see the kind of destruction that we're seeing now in the Ukraine, in Africa, and many parts of the world, that could be us if it wasn't for the sacrifices that our veterans have made. And we should never take that for granted, never take our own security and our own peace for granted, because as has been said many times, that freedom is not free. And many have paid a very terrible and ultimate price for that. And lastly, I'd like to acknowledge the first responders who are here, who keep us safe at home every single day. That is also a sacrifice that I've learned a lot more about over the years, of time, of family, and sometimes of life and limb. So again, to all of the veterans who are here, a particular thank you to all of the Gold Star families and all of the families of our service members. Thank you so much, and God bless all of you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you to Steve Pierce, members of the Montrose Shopping Park Association, the Montrose Verdugo City Chamber of Commerce, for putting on this ceremony about as long as I can remember. I'd also like to thank you for letting me speak here this morning. Each year at this monument, we honor the fallen sons and daughters from wars, and in particular, in this monument, the sons. I don't think there's a young lady on the wall, but the sons who fell during the Vietnam War from the Montrose area. And each name is called out, followed by a singular toll of the bell. It's a sad and solemn moment in the ceremony that interrupts the otherwise calm and quiet in the heart of Montrose. Well, usually. I've sat quietly and listened to the names each year, but hearing one name always got my head, my heart, and my thoughts spinning for a few moments. That is of Michael Anthony Najarian, Corpsman, U.S. Navy. It wasn't that our family was unfamiliar with the military. My uncle was a colonel in the Green Beret who fought in Vietnam, and he returned safely. My brother Rafi is an Air Force colonel who served in Operation Desert Shield. Rafi's right there. As an aside, no matter how many stripes or stars my younger brother has, he never outranks the senior brother of the family. My brother-in-law, Steve Yakubian, is a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy. So we're very familiar with the military. It's just that we didn't know much about the name on the wall, Michael Anthony Najarian. So we had to do a little research to find out how is it that this young man came to settle in Montrose, far away from where I grew up. I grew up in Ohio. So after a little research, what we discovered was that Michael's grandfather and my grandfather were cousins. They grew up in a small town in eastern Turkey, some say western Armenia, of Urfa. And most of us have heard of the 1915 Turkish massacres of the Armenians, but there was a massacre in 1895 in which 300,000 Armenians were killed, but also produced 50,000 orphan children. Michael Najarian's grandfather and my grandfather were two of those orphans. Thankfully, Protestant missionaries stepped in to save some of the orphans, to bring them to the East Coast and settle them in the Boston area. Michael's grandfather was one of those orphans, and he was settled in Boston. But my grandfather, perhaps unfortunately, remained in Turkey. And that's where the family tree split, if you will. Michael's dad, Leo, was born in Boston in 1911. And he made his way west. He was married in Nevada and eventually settled in Los Angeles, where he joined, enlisted in World War II. After the war, he joined the LA County Fire Department, where he became a battalion chief and was actually quite famous for being one of the pioneers in hazardous waste disposal and hazardous waste handling. In fact, there is a scholarship that the county fire department puts out in his name. He eventually became a battalion chief. Now Michael, the one whose name is on the wall, was born in 1944 and raised here in the Crescenta Valley. He lived just up the hill on Altura Avenue. He worked at La Crescenta Pharmacy, and he enjoyed singing in several choral groups. And I can imagine the discussions that they had at the dining room table with Leo, the dad, discussing how important it was to give to the community, how important community service was, having the background that he had, appreciating and adoring the great United States that he was living in. In 1966, we didn't have the draft. So anyone that was in the war at that time were enlisted men. They volunteered to fight. And that's what Michael did. He volunteered to join the Navy and to become a corpsman. Now a corpsman, if you're not in the military and you're not familiar, corpsman is similar to a combat EMT. He's placed with typically Marine divisions, and he follows those Marine divisions through combat situations. And should there be an incident, should there be an injury on the battlefield, the corpsman is the first one to rush out and try and save his comrade. And that's what Michael was doing in June of 1966. He was attached with the 3rd Division Marines. We believe that there was a battle that time called the Battle of Hill 488. It was in the northern area of South Vietnam, and the role of the Marines at that time were to stop the flow of the People's Army of North Vietnam infiltrating into South Vietnam and bringing in weapons that they were using on the rest of the South Vietnamese. There was a gunfight, a fight for several days. The situation usually is such that air support helps the Marines to push back the aggressors. But due to weather conditions, they just couldn't get that air support. So it was a very brutal war, a very brutal battle. Michael was shot several times. He was removed from the battlefield. He was airlifted to the hospital in Da Nang, but unfortunately he succumbed to his injuries and died 3 days later. He was only 21 years old. Now, families of fallen soldiers always wonder what could have been. Could Michael Najarian have returned to the Crescenta Valley after the war? Could he have joined the fire service and followed in his father's footsteps? He wanted to. Could he have someday been a fire chief, maybe of Glendale or some other city? Would he have raised a family and been standing amongst us today, honoring his other fallen comrades? The world will never know what awaited a young 21-year-old boy. What we do know is that he gave his life in service to our country. Michael's sacrifice and the sacrifices of hundreds of thousands of other servicemen and women throughout our wars are what we commemorate today. Their ultimate sacrifices have kept democracy and our country safe to this day. Michael and others answered our nation's call for the American core values of God, country, family, and patriotism, and our freedom to worship as we please. May they all rest in peace. Thank you.
Tamara Bolton once said, "This is the day we pay homage to all those who didn't come home." This is not Veterans Day. It's not a celebration. It is a day of solemn contemplation over the cost of freedom. Callan James Courtemanche, Corporal, United States Marine Corps. Fred B. Beckerman, Jr., Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps. Gary Nels Nelson, Corporal, United States Marine Corps. Gregory Paul Kelly, Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps. Jack Dennis Downs, Private First Class, United States Army. James Reginald Boder, Captain, United States Navy. Jerry Ray Murphy, Specialist 5th Class, United States Army. John Patrick Lee, Specialist 4th Class, United States Army. Lauren Eugene Ingstrom, Warrant Officer, United States Army. John C. Sweet, Lieutenant, United States Navy, USS Scorpion. William A. Peterson, Lieutenant Junior Grade, United States Navy. Manuel Miranda, Specialist 5th Class, United States Army. Michael Anthony Najarian, Naval Hospital Corpsman, United States Marine Corps. Michael David Sheehan, Private First Class, United States Army. Norman Richard Kidd, Captain, United States Army. Patrick Owen Quinn, Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps. Ralph N. Doomling, First Lieutenant, United States Marine Corps. Richard C. Ramsey, Sergeant, United States Air Force. Robert A. Chapp, Sergeant, United States Marine Corps. Roy Allen Fryman, Gunnery Sergeant, United States Marine Corps. Stephen Arthur Golsch, Specialist 4th Class, United States Army. Stephen Frank Burlingame, Specialist 4th Class, United States Army. Warren Richard Spencer, Major, United States Air Force. William Warren Hale, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Air Force.
At this moment, we ask you to please rise for a moment of silence to remember the fallen. Thank you. You may have a seat. We would like to thank everyone who brought flowers today. The Montrose Shopping Park Association, the Montrose Verdugo City Chamber of Commerce, the Glendale Police Department, the Glendale Fire Department, the La Crescenta Women's Club, the Crescenta Valley Sheriff's Station, the Boys and Girls Scouts, the Montrose Peace Vigil, And all others, please come forward and place your flowers at this time.
As we have collectively reflected on our local veterans, and for the numerous veterans we do not know, may we conclude our thoughts for all those who have fallen with the words from The Wall by Catherine Ann McNeil. I walked along the long black wall with names as far as I could see. Friends I knew in childhood, now etched in memories. I've touched their names so many times, remembered them with love. I've walked along, the rain pours down, tears from heaven above. I watch a vet, deep in thought, pain across his face. He walks a mother to the wall. He's taken his friend's place. She reaches out to touch the name, the one that was her son. They pause together in the rain, their memories a bond. The men who fought, the men who died, their names for all to see. Their lives so brief, fallen short, a page in history. We can't forget what they have done so many years ago. Sacrifices they have made, the bravery they showed. I walked along the long black wall, crying in the rain, for all those men who've touched our lives we'll never see again.
Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arm hath bound the restless wave, who bids the mighty ocean deep its own appointed limits keep. O hear us when we cry to thee, for those in peril on the sea. O Christ, whose voice the waters heard, and hushed their raging at thy word, who walkest on the foaming deep, and calm amidst its rage did sleep. O hear us when we cry to thee, for those in peril on the sea. Most Holy Spirit, who didst brood upon the chaos dark and rude, and bid its angry tumult cease, and give for wild confusion peace. O hear us when we cry to thee, for those in peril on the sea. Eternal Father, grant, we pray, to all Marines, both night and day, the courage, honor, strength, and skill, their land to serve, thy law fulfill. Be thou the shield forevermore, from every peril to the core. Lord, guard and guide the ones who fly through the great spaces in the sky. Be with them always in the air, in darkening storms or sunlight fair. O hear us when we lift our prayer for those who peril in the air.